welcome back. We will be filling a clock today. So I've been provided this from ResiArt. This is one of their take-home kits that you can basically create at home from, and I'm very grateful for ResiArt as they use a lot of our products on their workshops. So I jumped at the opportunity to be able to grab one of these myself and fill it. So I'll go through with you today what we're using and then we'll get started. So I'm going to use Resi Lace today. Now, something like this clock could be filled with Resi Lace or our Resi Clear, and the only reason I've chosen Resi Lace today is it is slightly thicker and I want to get a little bit more definition and maybe get some sort of marbling lines through it. So that's the only reason I've chosen Resi Lace today. I have pre-mixed up some of our Resi Lace, so if you want any information on how we measure and mix, please refer to the video. I've selected a couple of colours, so I'm going to use our translucent jet black, but then I'm also going to mix up some of our black abyss with the Resi Lace as well. So I've got our two tones of black here, and then I wanted a super vibrant green. So I have two options here with our green pearl and our deep green, that I'm actually going to add our fluorescent lime translucent dye to both of those, and you'll watch how the colours transform. So those are the colours that I'm going to work with. I will also be using our isopropyl, Resi Pure isopropyl, to be able to give it a mist, pop any bubbles, and potentially sort of create some little marbling effects as well. So let's get started. So in the kit, you get your little clock mechanisms. So, but we won't be putting that in straight away. Obviously this portion is once our silicone mold is filled and dried. So I'm gonna put that aside for now. And we have our silicone clock face. So we've got all these sections in the silicone mold, basically where our numbers are going to be. So once we demold that, these sections that are raised will actually form little holes in it. There are a number of different clock molds that you can get out there. I think this one's great because you don't have to go and get additional little numbers or anything like that to glue on. It already has the indentations for your 1 to 12 through it. Okay, so I'm going to get to and mix. I'm going to divide my Resi Lace into a couple of little dispenser cups for my greens, and then I'm going to use a good portion of the leftovers for the translucent black and our Black Horizon tinted Resi Lace. I've just spilt a little bit in my mold, just using the isopropyl to wipe it out. Always clean up your mess with your isopropyl. I've pre-mixed our Black Abyss. If you've had your tint sitting for a little while, I always advise to give it a good stir up, but I've pre-mixed that, so I'm going to pop that into my Resi Lace that's in the ratio container. You don't need a great deal of the Black Abyss. The tint, it gets quite dark quite quickly. And when using this tint, it is an opaque black, solid black, no metallic, can't see through it. Clean up our mess as we go, otherwise I will get this black everywhere. So mixing that in now. And as you can see, when I lift the stirrer, we have a solid black. Okay. Now with the other bulk that I've got here of our Resi Lace, I'm going to put in our translucent jet black dye. There's about 4 or 5 drops there. I'll mix that one in. And even though this dye goes pretty dark, it still has translucency to it. So it'll give me a little bit of contrasting effect, a little bit of depth by having the two blacks, the solid black and the translucent black. And you can see when I lift that up that I still have a lot of translucency to that. That's perfect. Now, our greens. So in one little cup, I'm going to put in our deep green metallic. One will be our green pearl. Then we'll add our fluorescent lime to both of those. So I'll mix in our deep green first. Just carefully. I've got my little dispenser cups pretty full. I just want to make sure I'm mixing in all the dried powder. Okay, now green pearl in the second. Now to add our fluorescent lime dye in. So you can see the colours as they are at the moment. It's probably 10 to 12 drops there. And the same thing for the second one. Now let us mix those in. Now fluorescent dye of the fluorescent lime dye is almost radioactive. It's pretty cool when you use it alone, but it also gives a lot of vibrancy to your any of your green tones in your metallics too. So you can see my deep green is a lot brighter now. And then wait till you see what happens with the green pearl. And in our pearl, because my green pearl is a much lighter base than the deep green, we get a little bit more of a vibrant pearly fluorescent colour. I'm radioactive. So we've got a lighter fluoro green, and then like a deeper like poison apple. And that's our colours mixed. So before I start pouring, I want to give my mould just a little wipe down in case I've accidentally put any bits of powder fibres or anything like that in it at all. So I'm just giving it a spray with our isopropyl, Resi Pure isopropyl, and just wiping it out just to make sure I've got nothing stuck on it. Like if it's stuck on there and I pour over the top of it, when you demold it, you'll have like a patch of like opaque powder, like, you know, on it.
Like when we do like the, what's it called, that skull?
When you dust inside it, yeah, you just have like an uneven patch where it's dropped on it. Yeah. I'm gonna put my greens aside for a second and work with my blacks first. All right, let's go. So I'm going to put my solid black in first, and I'm just gonna sort of, you know, pour it somewhat randomly across the clock face. And just going back on why I'm using lace as well, is lace is thicker than our Resi Clear. So when I am pouring in like this, it helps me control where the resin's going. So it doesn't sort of just want to self-level and fill the whole entire mould immediately, which is one of the beauties of lace, aside from being able to create some really cool cellular work. And I'm going to pop in my translucent. Raz has informed me I have an emo cow here, which is kind of cool, it suits me. What I do want to do is move some of these little drips that I spilt before and just bring them back into the bulk of my black mixture and try break through my pour here as best I can. I might actually use a silicone stirrer. I'll have a better chance of pushing it through, so bear with me a second. Just from your local supermarket, silicone stirrer. I'm just going to scrape flat across the bottom of my silicone mould and try and move some of my opaque colour, just so I can spread it out and have some of that translucent fall back through. Just wanted a little bit more of a break in between it. Okay, so we've got our blacks down. Time to add some vibrant detail with our greens. With silicone moulds like this, the same as plate moulds, because I'm pouring in, sometimes my pigments may settle a certain way and it'll look different from the underside. You could potentially use this on the back side or the front side, depending on your preference when you demold it. Looks super funky. There's a little bit of movement happening with Resi Lace. Not as much as what would happen with our Resi Clear, but that was another reason I chose the Resi Lace. So if I was doing this sort of more marbled look, it would help me maintain the position close to what I'm putting in as. Now, as the resin is curing and starting to basically thicken up, heat up and cure properly, there will be some slight movements, so some of my pigments might sink, it might move around a little bit. I don't really want to fiddle with it too much. I kind of want it to do its own thing, so I will just give it a wipe over around. Obviously give it a nice mist with our Resi isopropyl to pop any bubbles, but it also does give some texture through these portions that I've just pulled in, especially where we have our opaque black coming through as well. But like you can see sections like this where it's just starting to move out and push out now. And one other little tip too, I have really tiny little bubbles that have been trapped on the inner edge of this silicone mould. I'm actually going to get a little skewer and just move them out. If I don't move them out now, they're not going to raise to the surface because they're just trapped against the edge of the silicone. So we're going to do that. So I just release them from that edge and they come to the top. And then when they come to the surface, then I can mist them with isopropyl and they will pop because we're breaking that surface tension. Sometimes the silicone mold does trap little pockets of air, and they are just literally sitting in that bottom edge corner. That's it. So now I should be able to give them a mist again, and they pop off that top surface now that they've come to the top. It's that simple. What I'm going to do now is let my Resi lace cure. So we're talking about a 24-hour time frame. Then I will be able to demold and put in the clock mechanism so we have a working clock. Guess what time it is? Radioactive time. It's been 24 hours and I have demolded our clock face and we've attached the mechanism. So now we have a completely working clock. So it turned out pretty cool. The colours that come through kind of give it that Northern Lights vibe in the darkness of the night. If you do look up close, you can see some suspension of the colour in the translucent section, which looks really cool. Now, if you did want to use the backside, there's potential for you to do that. This is the backside and the colour has come through a little bit differently in the way it sank. But if you were to, because there is a couple of little marks that have come through from the silicone mould, I would potentially do like a dome coat on the backside with either your Resi Glaze or your Resi Clear. And then you can ultimately put the clock mechanism on the opposite side if you had a preference to use the backside. Now, the silicone mould and mechanism piece that's provided by ResiArt, you can reuse the silicone mould to create more clock faces, but what you'd want to do is maybe just jump online. There's quite a number of suppliers out there that sell just the mechanism alone and they're not too expensive, so it enables you to make a heap of clocks and give them as gifts if you'd like to, or put them all around your house. But anyway guys, if you've got any questions, remember, pop them below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.